So the violin E string is the most susceptible to breaking. Why does that happen? So the tuning pegs on the violin, these ones here, are very sensitive. So if you turn them quickly, then the string will pull like a piece of elastic very quickly like that. And what happens to elastic if you pull it very quickly? It breaks. However, if you pull it slowly, then it stretches, and that's what we want to do today. So when we tune a string, we are stretching that string so that the string reaches the pitch, and we're also pulling it very, very tight because the string is wound over the bridge here to the tuning pegs here. And in order to get particularly the E string in tune, it must be extremely tightly wound. So if you turn the tuning peg too quickly during that process, you can end up breaking the string. So let's just run through the different ways you can tune the violin. So some violins will have what are called fine tuners. So here you can see I've just got one here for my E string. A new starter violin or a student violin, you'll have probably 4 of these. So the E string one here, basically you can turn it anti-clockwise to make it lower or clockwise to make it higher. Now, the only time that you should use the fine tuner is when you get very close to the note that you're looking for on the tuner, which in this case would be E4. When we're changing strings, we need to use the tuning pegs. So if you put your violin on your knee, like me, okay, let me just show you that. So I've got my violin on my knee, and then you can steady the violin with your hand if you want, or hold it like I am around the neck. Okay. Then I want you to take your right hand and I want you to hold the neck like this. So I've got my thumb over the tuning peg on the other side, on the right side. I'm holding it with my right hand, and as I look at it, my thumb is just sitting above the G peg here. So as you look at it, you've got G, D, A, and E. Okay, so we're dealing with E today. So you've got your violin in your right hand on your knee in front of you. Then you're going to take the peg and you're going to push it in. The pegs are shaped conically, like this. Okay, conically. And the only thing that keeps them in there is the fact that they're conical and the hole fits the peg. So there's no glue, there's nothing mechanical other than simple peg in hole business, okay? If you are looking for a different type of tuning peg that is much easier to tune, by the way, I'd like to recommend machine head tuners. Machine head tuners work like electric guitar tuners, and if you buy a set for your violin and take them to any luthier, they'll be able to fit them for you. However, at least in the UK, the pegs are around £70, which I think is about $100. So if your violin is worth less than that, then maybe this isn't worth it, but it's something to consider investing, in particular if you are a committed player and you have at least a decent student quality violin, then it can save you a lot of time and hassle in tuning. I just want to talk briefly about the different kind of strings that I have and what their purposes are, okay? This one here, the D'Addario Prelude, is a very satisfactory quality student set of strings. They're normally about $20 to $30 US dollars for a set. You can get them all around the world, and I have these as backups in case my high quality strings break and I'm on tour and I can't get to a violin shop. But they do sell them in single E strings, which is really useful. So if you've already broken your E string and you're a student, then you can go on Amazon and buy a single E string. They're really cheap, much cheaper than buying a full set, and just replace that one string. So even if you've got a different brand of strings, don't worry, this one would be fine to mix with it if you're just learning for a hobby, okay? So the string that I'm going to put on my violin today is the Heifetz Optima Gold Brocat, which is popular with classical musicians at the moment as an E string. A lot of musicians like to have a different E string from the rest of the set because very often the E has a very particular sound to it, and it can be a little shrill. So it's nice to mix and match sometimes. So if you find a set that you like the D, G and A of, but you don't like the E, you can normally buy individual E strings. When fixing your string, it's a good idea to have a pair of tweezers on hand. Very good lighting, which I don't really have here, but it's a good spot for filming. And then you can also do what I've done, which is to loosen your A string very slightly so that you can move it out the way, okay? Because the A string sits very close to the E string, and when you're putting a new string in, sometimes you need space, okay? So just loosen the A string, but don't take it off, and move it out the way. How do you do that? You press the A peg in, which is this top one here, press it in and turn it away from you very slowly, very, very slowly. Remember, we don't do anything quickly when we're tuning. And just lift it out of the nut here, and you can move it that way. So that should give you a nice clear path to fit your E string, which is going to go the bottom peg on the right hand side. You can see here there's a little hole, all right? I've taken my peg out just to show you. Let's see where the hole is. Can you see there? There. Okay, that is the hole we're going to put the E string in, all right? So you can pop, well, hopefully you haven't taken yours out because you didn't need to, just me. Pop it back in. Try to align the hole so that you can see where it is as you're putting it in, okay? So just make sure you're aware of where that hole is. Now we're going to take our string. Your string will have a little metal ball on the bottom. If it doesn't, you've got what's called a loop end string, and you should find a video about how to fit a loop end string. This is a ball end string, the most common type, okay? Now, the end of the string is determined by the tailpiece. So here you can see on my tailpiece, I've got little round holes there, which tells me that I'm using ball end strings. Also, I have a fine tuner here on my E string. So on the fine tuners, if you've got these, then you're going to put your ball in this little slot here, okay? So let me just show you how that works. So you take the ball. You'll also have probably a little bit of plastic here. Keep that on. Don't worry about it for now. I'll explain it in a minute. So I want you to just straighten the string out, okay? Find the very end of the string, the ball, and you're going to lay it either inside the hole if you don't have fine tuners, but you probably will if you have a student violin because they all come with them. And then if you don't, then you pop it in that hole. If you do, then pop it inside the fine tuner slot there. So we're just laying the ball inside there in a little rivet on the fine tuner, okay? If you've got it in the right place, then it should have slotted in nicely. Okay, then I want you to lay the string over the bridge. So you can use the little bit of plastic here to sit between the string and the bridge. That's where it goes. Why? To stop the string, which is very sharp, from cutting a hole in the bridge. Okay? So here I've got the little bit of black plastic. Don't worry if the string comes out of the tailpiece for now. I'm just showing you where it's got to sort of end up. All right, but don't worry too much if it doesn't stay. So now we're going to lay the string over the neck right up, and then we're going to pop it in the nut here. This is the nut. There should be 4 dents here, and yours is going to sit in the E string dent. Then I want you to hold it with a finger on the nut whilst you turn your violin towards you. Pop it on your knee. Hold the string with your right thumb in the groove on the nut. All right, so by this point you should have your string laid over the bridge, and you're holding the string on the nut with the thumb. And then you've got the end of the string here just flailing around, okay? So now I'm gonna swap my left thumb for my right thumb, sorry, my right thumb for my left hand. So I'm holding the string with my left thumb now. You're gonna need very good lighting. So if you don't have good lighting now, then find some, ideally directly over you, or you can use a phone camera. get a friend to stand behind you and hold the phone camera, the phone torch right on top so you can see, okay? I've got very bad lighting here because I'm sitting in a room that is great for filming but not so good for putting strings in, but luckily I'm experienced. So now you should have the peg in the hole, and you should be able to see the peg hole. Sorry, you should be able to see the hole where you put the string. So the peg is in this hole, but then there's a tiny hole inside you pop the string through, and we're going to do that now, okay? So let me just see if I can show you that. There we go, like that, okay? And you can change the angle of the hole just by turning the peg. So you should align your hole between the A string and the edge of the peg box, and then I want you to take the end of the string and poke it through the hole. So if you can't see your hole, remember, you're going to need better lighting, okay? So let me show you what that looks like now. Okay, so you should be able to see there, this is my string. I've threaded it through the hole now and it's coming through the other side. So now I've got maybe 1 centimetre of string poking through the other side. I'm going to hold the scroll of the neck with my right hand, keep the string with the thumb on the nut still so that it doesn't move. And then I'm going to turn the peg away from me whilst pushing it in very gently. So the E string peg away from me. And now I've basically turned it so the end of the string is pointing upwards. Okay, you've got to have good eyesight to see this. Now I'm going to put my finger in and I'm going to bend that string slightly, just slightly, so that there's a little bend in it like that, so that it's less likely to pop out whilst I'm tuning the string. Okay, so you just want to bend the end of the string just slightly so that it's at a different angle to the hole. Now I turn the peg away from me if I've got my violin on my lap, like you should do, in front of you. Turn the peg very slowly and away from you. Now, in an ideal world, you want to get your winding like this, okay? This is quite difficult to do, and it's one of the reasons why I moved the A string out the way so that I've got space to do this. I also use tweezers to help me to do this. If you don't get your winding as perfectly in line as I have, it doesn't really matter if you're a student, but the rule is try not to let the strings cross more than once, okay? So I keep my tweezers on hand in order to help me with this job. So I'm going to again, lay the string over the bridge, lay it in the nut, make sure everything's in alignment, pull it taut up until the thumb, okay? Taut means tight. It's an English silly word. Okay, and then you should have the string coming through the hole and ready to be wound now, okay? Ready to be wound. So I'm going to push the peg in with my right hand, steady the neck with my left hand whilst I'm holding the string in the nut, not too tight, but just hold it there. And I'm going to turn the peg in and turn it away from myself. So I need to push the peg in, and turn it away from myself. Now, whilst the string is loose, you can do this quickly, but if you want to keep safe, so that you don't break another string, because this is the most common way people break strings, then you should turn it slowly. Because remember, we're trying not to break the string, which is very easy to do when you're putting it on. Okay, so I'm turning it away from myself, Now, if you want to keep the winding in alignment as you're doing this, grab your tweezers and just try best as you can to keep the winding uniform as you're doing it. Very difficult to do. So again, if it's the first time you're doing this, you probably won't succeed. Even I struggle, and I've done it hundreds of times, if not thousands. If the string comes out of the hole, like mine just has, then just pop it back in again. Okay, it will do now and again. It's a very fiddly job, so it's very hard to do this in a way that looks easy, because it's not easy. Okay, so at this stage, because my string's not behaving, I'm holding it here whilst turning it, because I want to get the string perfectly in alignment, because I'm OCD. Going to do my best. And then it allows me to control how the string is winding as I'm doing it. So, but don't worry if you can't do this or you don't really understand what I'm talking about. Just make sure that the string is winding round and it doesn't cross over too much. Okay, so let me just show you what I'm doing. It's very hard for me to show you and do a good job. Let's start again. Okay, I might just do a before and after for this because I'm going to ruin my string if I mess with it. So once the string starts to get taut, which means that it's nearly straight, then that's when you need to check if it's all lined up correctly between the tailpiece, the bridge and the nut. So you need to relay the string on once it starts to get taut. So that means the string is getting tighter and tighter. Okay, and you'll know that because it won't reach the end of the violin. You won't be able to reach the string to the tailpiece if you've gone too far, so then you need to unwind it. This is the point where you can break the string, okay? So you have to be very careful once the string starts to get taut, and by taut I mean tight, okay? So once it's taut, check that it's laid from the fine tuner or the tailpiece over the bridge. Check your bit of plastic is sitting on the bridge if you've got a bit of plastic, and then check that the string is sitting in the correct groove within the nut. So it might jump into the A string groove if you're not careful, especially if you've loosened your A string. So it should be sitting here in the E string groove, okay? And then you start to tighten it. So hold the thumb over the string, and now we're gonna very, very slowly, don't make any big movements when it gets taut, because this is the point you can break your string. Less than ½ centimeter at a time, I want you to push the string in and turn it away from you. Okay? You can try plucking the string now. If it's taut, then you'll get a note. We're aiming for E, so we've got... That's where we want to aim to. So you should have a tuner on hand if you don't have one. And the tuner can either be on your phone. I'll link to a decent tuning app below. Or you can use a clip-on tuner for a guitar like this. So I'm going to do that in this case because I'm using my phone to film. All right. So now the string is taut. Let's check what note we're on. Oh, it's an F. Okay. I know this is lower than the pitch it should be. If you're using a phone tuner, then it will probably say what octave number it is. We're aiming for E4. Okay. So if it says E1, 2, 3 or F1 or any note with 1, 2 or 3 before, then you're too low. Do not turn the peg for more than ½ centimeter at a time. Otherwise you're at risk of breaking it. What happens if you pull a piece of elastic very tight? Very quickly you break it, okay? So we're going to turn it a little bit, then check the tuning. Okay, C sharp. Okay, so I want to go up a tone and a half now. C sharp, D, sharp, D, okay, E. Now I'm on D sharp, so I'm 1 semitone below. If you're not sure how tuning works, I do have a video called How to Tune a Violin, which you should maybe watch that, because in that one I go through how to use a tuner, but here I'm just talking about how to not break your E string when you're putting a new E string, okay? All right. Turn it very slowly. Okay. All right, I'm now on E, but as you can see from my tuner, can you? Yeah. I'm very slightly sharp, so I'm now going to use my fine tuner to stabilize that. I'm going to turn the fine tuner anti-clockwise to make it lower, because I need to lower the pitch. Let's check that again. Okay, we're close now. Fine tuner slightly lower. Perfect, okay. Don't forget the A string though. The A string was loosened, so we now need to tune the A string. So I want you to take your A string, again, hold it loosely in the nut like that, and you can use the right hand and use the left hand to hold the A string and the right hand to tune. Hold it on your lap, turn it again slowly and away from you. Slowly, 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 slowly. Make sure that the A string is lined up with the bridge groove as well for the A. And as it starts to get taut, which means tight, then you can tune that. Okay, that's my A string. So I need to tune that because we're on G or D sharp at the moment, D sharp. In and away from you, like that. Okay, if you've got fine tuners, now would be a good time to use them because we're very close to the A. I don't have fine tuners, so I just use the tuning pegs. There we go, we've got an A. So, okay, once you fit your new string, your violin is going to go out of tune quite a lot for a while, so keep tuning it. You need to tune your violin now probably every 10 minutes for half an hour, and then it will stabilize. But over the next few days, it probably will go out of tune a lot more than usual. Because, remember, we're putting in a piece of metal that stretches. So it will keep stretching, especially as you've just stretched it for the first time since it came out of the string factory. All right, let's check the tuning. Already my E has slipped by nearly a tone because it's brand new, so I've got to tune it again. We're on D sharp to E. All right, I've checked the A with my bow. That's also slipped by about a semitone already, so I need to retune that. When you put a new string on, it also affects the tuning of the other strings, so you need to check the D and the G as well. Everything will be a little bit unstable for a while, so just keep tuning the violin. Okay, my violin is now in tune. But I should also keep rechecking with the bow because the tuning from plucking is often slightly inaccurate. Okay, I can see that I'm slightly flat there, so I'm going to tune again. Keep doing this until you get consistently stable tuning. Now I'm slightly sharp, so this takes a while. I would budget, if it's the first time, give yourself an hour to do this. Maybe half an hour, but probably an hour. Because you're likely to make mistakes, and it's okay if you break another string, just order another one. Easier said than done, especially if strings cost money, but they're not too expensive. But the main thing you need to know is not to turn the peg too quickly. All right, I'm going to leave it there for today, but just know that I'll be retuning my violin now every 5 to 10 minutes because I have a gig tonight, and if I don't do that, then what will happen is my violin will go out of tune during the gig all of the time because I didn't stretch my string out enough. So I stretch the string by tuning it every 10 minutes for the next half an hour. Okay, and then I'll do that again before the gig, so I'll arrive at my gig maybe an hour beforehand and start tuning my violin straight away. Why? Because the atmosphere in the room and the temperature also affects the tuning. So if I leave it to the very last minute, then my violin will go out of tune when I'm playing. Okay, that concludes everything for the tutorial of how to change an E string. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments, and remember to subscribe as I'm making regular content almost every day, at least 2 or 3 times a week.